Why, hello there, fellow lumberjacks. Rodamon here. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn 1.0. Episode 4, Stripping the Land of Trees. So there we go. Now the water level is about 90%. And once we get to like T-minus 0.5 days, I'll raise it up to 95%. And then when it's like T-minus 0.2 days, I'll raise it up to 100%. Which will briefly cause some localized flooding, but then, you know, that will get resolved. All right. What are we... Yeah, so here's the second pumper. And this is so that we can fill the tanks as fast as possible in the 1.3 days we have left. In fact, I'm going to increase the working hours right now up to 20, just so we can build more tanks, so that tomorrow we're filling these water tanks as much as we can in preparation for the flood, or for the drought, rather. And some of my flank storages are getting flooded, not a big deal. I think in order to have just like an overabundance of wood, I'm going to set this area up for oaks as well. And then I'll start planning on other types of wood to be planted for like chestnuts for food or maple for syrup over in this section with the forester, because the forester still has a lot of range. With that said, anything west of here will just die due to the bad water. So anywhere you see this like nasty cracked soil, nothing can grow there. It will just get killed by the bad water. And working hours now 18. So with the 2 water pumpers, we should be able to fill these tanks pretty good. These tanks are going to be the highest priority. We are pretty low on logs. And then, and we have more planks than I probably need. So I'm going to pause one of these lumber mills so that we focus more on building and less on milling. Because I have enough wood now, 25 for 6, 8, 12, 16, 20 to get up to like this level, so that even during the drought we can still make more progress building our giant levee. Because these stairs here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In fact, I might even pause these because they're not like immediately crucial. These stairs here are really important to gain access to this zone, so that we can start making more drought preparedness. Can you remediate bad soil? Yeah, as soon as the bad water goes away, the bad soil goes away. So if I diverted this river over this way instead, so if I built like a bunch of floodgates here, where this bad water instead flowed this way, all of the soil would be fixed, which is like long-term project stuff. Same with over here. All of this dry soil, I could reroute the water. I could dynamite this section out, route some of this water eastward. There is a tunnel here. Goes through the tunnel, goes down the waterfall, and then rehydrate the eastern section of the map too. Again, long-term projects to be done later on when we have the means and capacity. So now that we're at 0.7 days, I'm going to raise the water level up to 95%. And then as we approach the drought at like 0.2 days, I'll raise it up to 100%. So we are storing as much water as possible. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to, I'm going to prioritize having the haulers move the water. I'm trying to fill these tanks. Because right now, my water, the total amount of water available to me is infinite because it's flowing. But as soon as the drought starts, I'm going to stop double pumping and only single pump, and hope that this drought isn't super long, or we're gonna be in trouble. I don't know if those stairs were all that important. It's a little bit too late. But it is, once these stairs are built, that will allow me to like actually physically go in the water to get wet fur, because that is a wellness bonus. So some of our beavers have already gotten wet fur as a result of this localized flooding, and that makes them happier. They want wet fur. No, we are starting to get people dying of old age too, so there will be population turnover. Not a big deal. It's also one of the reasons why I don't raffle off the beavers, because, you know, you get enough population turnover that they last for a cycle or two. Until late game, whether they have a life expectancy that is really, really long, which means I'm not raffling them off. Alright, we're at point 3. We almost have this last tank built. I think I'm actually going to forget this last tank. We're not going to be able to build it before it matters. And now we're at point 2. So let's go ahead and flood everything. So raising up the floodgates to 100% means the water has to spill out sideways. What I'm trying to do is maximize the amount of water that we have. If I flooded really early on, we might even get some spillage to go in here, but probably not enough to be meaningful. Any place that floods also means it can't work. Unless there's a, you know, there's some things that are okay with aquatic flooding, but not many workplaces. So a lot of workplaces are kind of on hold for now. Which is fine, because I flooded it at night when no one was working anyway. So now we have 100% water in the river here. And I'm going to pause the lumber mill, because we're not going to have running water in a second. So there's no point in having the lumber mill going. So it's a 6-day drought. We've already survived a 5-day drought without the floodgates. So a 6-day drought, no big deal. No big deal at all. I got really lucky there. So, the big push now is to get the longer drought prep done. So as you can see, the water evaporates. And now nothing's flooded. And I have to be very mindful about the planks I use, because I have 26 planks. And I don't have, unless I start building hamster wheels, I don't have the capacity to build any additional planks. I might end up resorting to hamster wheels if I really do need the planks. But ideally, I'm going to try to avoid that. And the aim now is to build the upstream water diverter. So that's what I'm going to call it. Build the upstream water diverter. So once the upstream water diverter is built, we'll be able to fill up this tub of water, which is a much better volume for long-term survival because it's deep and won't suffer evaporation as quickly. And then afterwards, I need to build the badwater redirector. So this section that is paused is the badwater redirection. That's what I'm calling it. So I've got 18, so that's what's been delivered. 4, 8, 12, 16. So forget that. Forget that, forget that, forget that. So until I have a little bit more planks, I have a bit of a limit of what I can invest in, but still. Bears are full. Oh, water pumper. Pause. Put them to work inventing. I don't need 2 pumps. Basically, I want 1 pump so that we have water stored, but I don't want 2 pumps because I don't want to drain this any faster than it really needs to drain out. And long term, I want to pump water from somewhere else. I want to pump water from maybe here or somewhere entirely different so that I'm not actively draining my river. That way it is useful for crops. even during extended droughts, until the droughts are so long that it would be a problem. So the other thing to note, because I know you asked, is now that there's not actively bad water here, all the soil is back to normal. It's not to say that I should plant anything there, because it will go back to dead once the bad water starts flowing, but you can see that immediately it snaps back. Because there isn't, other than this little pit over here of bad water, there isn't an ounce of bad water anywhere else on the map because of the drought. Which means the only irrigation is good irrigation, except for this tiny little section over there. All right. And at this point, the big push is going to be the levees, which is 12 logs per levee. So the big cost here is the, where'd all my logs go? Oh, maybe they're hauling them? Yeah, okay. I mean planks. Yeah, they're hauling them. The big cost here is all the wood needed for the next project. So that's the burden, to amass tons and tons and tons of logs for all these levees required. Could you build levees so that the bad water can't touch good land? Yeah. You can build however you want. There's even the ability to cap some of these bad water sources. With that in mind, bad water is a necessary ingredient for stuff like dynamite and extracts used for well-being. And so you don't want to get rid of all the bad water on the map, because you'll be equally screwed. Some bad water is a good thing. Uncontrolled bad water is a bad thing. Okay. Pause that too. We don't really need that built. In fact, build only this one, so that we have access to this stuff down here. It's actually pretty handy. Which also means pause that temporarily too. Okay. So now we have all the planks needed. And maybe what I'll do is unpause this one and this one, so that we can start building the, well, I'm gonna keep the pause for now. I'm gonna keep the ramps. The other thing to worry about is I don't want my beavers to strand themselves, because then I would have to break a levee or build a ramp or something like that. So I'm gonna keep some of this paused, so they can't possibly get stuck. Actually, the other thing is I'm going to change where I'm building the levees to that. The reason is, eventually, I might fill this section, because this is pretty deep. I might fill this section with water. So if I build levees there, I can use the height of that later on as a means to fill this area for irrigation. So this serves to change the layout serves a future project. And it also means that we don't have any ability to get trapped, because there's no gap behind the walls, so they'll be fine. Alright, is everyone working on something? This lumberjack is almost out of things to cut. Not a big deal, but just make a note of it. Berries are full. Workers can only really manage the 150 or so, or whatever, 147 plots that I have queued up. And then the forester is almost done sowing as far west as I can go without running into bad water issues. We do have 206 science. And I'm going to hold on to that for now. Another important tool to make use of is dynamite later on. And that might be once I have the badwater or the water diverter built, pushing towards dynamite might be the right call. So we'll need 4 planks for this stair, which means I'll have 6 planks left over, which I can build this stair. So I'm going to unpause this one because we can start building this section of the wall. In fact, if I wanted to, I could even go so far as to change where the gaps in the levees are, where I can have a western gap here, meaning we can build most of the walls here until this point. In fact, I could... I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I don't think it's that necessary, because I think the water flow will come back before then, because this is more than 4 days of work, would be my assumption. And yeah, the one pumper's really keeping our tanks nice and topped. Forester is working diligently, putting all the oaks in. And our first oaks are about 20% grown, for reference. If humans want to think what animal would be most likely to become sapient, I don't know. None? I think if humans went extinct, there wouldn't be anything to become sapient. That'd be my guess. If any were, maybe the other great apes would be the closest. Because I think without... I think there's going to be a limit to what, like, dolphins or whatever could progress to. So, like, orangutans? More than anything else? That'd be my guess. No new crops? Nope. None yet. Or, I don't know if you were referencing me, but I'm not ready to deal with the other crops. So things like potatoes require grilling. You don't eat raw potatoes, which requires wood. So I'm only really going to consider growing things like potatoes once we have an absolute abundance of wood, which we aren't facing right now. Obviously, we have a deficit, if anything. It would help with the well-being. So there's grilled potatoes, grilled chestnuts, grilled spatterdock. Spatterdock is a aquatic crop. Bread, which requires milling, which is even more complex. Cattail crackers, which require milling and baking. Bread requires milling and baking. And maple pastries, which require milling, baking, and tapping. So taking a look at the priorities, I'm going to have this stuff be low, but not lowest. Now. And this stuff be paused entirely. And I'll set it to normal and just paused. Once all the oaks are sown, I'll also sow other crops. I'll start sowing pine for the sap, maples for the syrup, and chestnuts for the chestnuts to roast. And if I don't have the capacity to tap them, I can just cut them down for timber at slightly less efficiency than oaks. All right, we're halfway through the drought. I would say visually we're at about 70% water, something like that. So we're really not going to run out for this drought, at least. And we have just about everyone working. I might I think our builders are actively building, so I don't think I'm going to divert one of the workers over to invention. So now that we have a lot of points, the other thing that I could consider is a double floodgate. I can unlock the tech for double floodgates in these spots rather than the single floodgate, which gives us a little bit more flexibility about the water level. Or I could save up for the triple floodgate for even more flexibility, which I'm not necessarily against. I think what I want to do is save up my science points towards triple floodgate and skip double floodgate if I can. I think that's, of all the things to unlock, platforms are great because they don't displace water. But I don't think I urgently need them. And then the rest of this is like bridges and zip lines, which I don't need. For landscaping, the triple floodgate would allow me to give a lot of flexibility as to the water level that I can control, which allows me to store and divert large volumes of water easily. There are fill valves and throttling valves, but fill valves and throttling valves require me to have smelted metals. So there's a higher barrier of entry to invest in that stuff. Floodgates are only wood and planks, which means they're a lot more... I can use them and utilize them a lot sooner. There is also dynamite, and if I wanted to make dynamite to talk about that, I would need an explosive factory, and the problem with the explosive factory is the explosive factory also needs smelted metal and gears. Gears are like processed planks, and then smelted metal is metal that has gone through a smelter. So that is scavenging for scrap metal and smelting it down using mechanical power, and then you get smelted metal. So there's a higher barrier for dynamite. I would love dynamite, and I want to get dynamite. It's a super powerful tool for earth moving, but I think it's going to be a little bit... If I rushed dynamite right now, one of the next catastrophes would probably kill me before I could really fully implement dynamite. One of the advantages of dynamite is I'd be able to blast a much deeper hole to be able to gain access to a much larger volume of water to be contained. So there's some real advantages of dynamite. I don't want to diss dynamite. I just don't think I'm going to be able to get metal collection, smelting, and gears in time to make use of dynamite. That would be my estimation. So that is not like a next tech to get. And Double Dwarf, thank you for the resub. So if I did do a triple wall, if I did save up for the triple gate, I could build triple gates here instead of double gates, and triple gates here. And what that could allow me to do is, especially if I eventually get a triple gate up here, like if I built triple gates there, obviously I don't have enough science points, I could then decide to divert the bad water westward at this point, rather than at this point, negating the need for the bad water diverter, as long as I also gate up here to push the water this path. And I think it really depends on when I get hit with bad water. If I get hit with bad water soon, I'll need this in place. And building this in place also gives me the ability to irrigate my crops. So this project still has utility even once I have bad water diversion up here. So basically, just to fully explain, a bad water tide will spew toxic water out of here. And my current plan is to push the toxic water this way and around. Once I have the infrastructure to push the toxic water this way, skipping this gap and out this way, then I can fill this section with fresh water for droughts to irrigate my crops. So the intention is this will be crop irrigation water, and this will be potable, drinkable water. So during long, prolonged droughts, I have lots of potable water stored here and crop irrigation water stored here, because I'll be able to divert bad water this direction. So that's like bigger picture. Much, much bigger picture. But no, that's a long time from now. So I'm going to focus on the here and now first. The urgency first. This, you don't have any work. Pause. You've probably not been doing anything for a long time, and you've just snuck under the radar. You sly dog. Maybe... if I put a flag there... Yeah, they still have access to some of the oaks. That'll work. Because I have some unemployed people, as you can see. I have some vacancies and unemployment, and I want to put them in working somewhere. So I'm trying to figure out where they should work. And right now our bottleneck is like timber. So these new workers are just going to be cutting down these dead oaks for wood, so that I have more wood available to me. Scrap is not finite, Turtle. You can deep mine underground ruins for scrap infinitely. Here, the underground depth is infinite. So this is an infinite metal source. This is an infinite metal source. And this is an infinite metal source. The surface metal obviously is finite. Once you exhaust these physical ruins, they're gone. But there are underground mining. Technically, I would say the win would be to build an earth recultivator for the Folktails. But it doesn't end the game. It just allows you... It's like the ultimate thing to build. Which, like... distributes tree seeds across all of Earth. It's basically like a seed launcher. But by no means would I say that that's like the win condition. But if you manage to build that, you've likely already done everything required to win. I will admit. All right. So a lot of the diverter wall is built. Everyone is employed. I might want to get another inventor. And the workplaces for these are low, but the construction site's going to be high. There we go. Let's look at a priority. They're building these walls. They still need to build these walls too. Because I'm likely going with higher floodgates, I'm not even going to bother building the one high floodgates there. I'll probably build a 3-tier instead. We're looking good. And we have 1 day left of drought. And we've got, I'm going to guess this is like 55% water left in the river. All the tanks are basically full of water, and our Folktails have plenty of food. There's 200 or almost 300 food available. Forester, you are out of work. So I did mention I wanted to diversify. So I'm going to build, or plant, rather, maples in this section, and chestnuts in this section. And then eventually pine in the northernmost. But this gives our foresters something to work towards. The oak trees are about a third grown, the oldest of them. For reference. And I forget visually how far west I can push before the badwater kills it. If they kill some of my oaks, no big deal. Sowing is not that labor intensive. So if it kills a few oaks, it's fine. All right. We have almost all that we need for a triple high floodgate. That's at 500 science. And the first ones I would build would be here. I might not need a triple high in this section, though, for the diverter. Because that could be overkill. Because we have a triple high here. One of the advantages of that is if I built a few more levees, we could raise the water around here to be like a big water store for this section. But the real advantage of the triple high is so that I can start diverting water and moving bad water away from our colony. That's the real push. And the real reason why I want the expensive one. And we'll have flowing water here in about half a day. And most of the water diverter is built, which is great. Now, as soon as we have flowing water again, I'm also going to ramp up the lumber mill because I'm not going to be able to build any triple high water gates or ramps or stairs or any of that until we have more planks, because I ran out of planks. And these oaks are almost all dead, meaning that I've nearly exhausted the source of like bonus wood for this section. Now, once we have more ramps, I can get the birch from up here, but obviously birch is like 1 wood per tree. Oaks were 8 wood per tree, so this was a lot more wood than this ever will be. But there's all this wood still. And there we go, drought end. So one of the things I'm going to do now that drought ends is I'm going to drop the floodgates to, let's say, 0.65. So that all the water in our base is at 0.65 to be able to get moving, flowing water as soon as possible to be able to get the lumber mills up and running. And I'm going to, let's see how many, we have 1 builder now. I'm going to pause 2 of the inventors to put them in building roles. And then over time, slowly, I will be raising these floodgates up to 0.9. I just wanted the moving water as soon as possible. So for safety's sake, I'm going to assume the next bad event is bad water. Which means I'm going to build these stopgap measure to prepare for it, rather than to assume it's a longer, more prolonged drought. Because if I'm not prepared for bad water, it's game ending and I have to save scum. Whereas if it's a longer drought, I already have the water diverter, so I'm fine. So I'm going to assume it's bad water next. Meaning that I have about 10 days or so to build the bad water diverter. So that's the assumption and that's the plan. Now, did I get the bad water range correctly? I think I did. No, it went a little farther. So this is not... And you'll see here, it's contaminated and very quickly dies. So this is as far west as I can go. It's fine. Now we see the line, and I can adjust for it. Nothing to do in range. That's because the last tree got cut down, so pause. And now that I'm pausing, that means we're going to have more... inventing capacity, because all these tree cutters will have no trees in range. Pause. Or actually just delete. And this one's about to delete. All right, with the extra planks that we got, let's unpause these, these ramps, these stairs, and we did get what we need for a triple high gate. So we want a triple high gate there. And it's unnecessary, but I'm going to put a triple high gate here. Honestly, a double high gate or a single high gate would actually... Maybe for now, I'll just do a 1 high gate there. And then I can scale it up to a 2 high gate once we have the science. So this is... what we need to be able to divert the water eastward. In fact, I don't technically even need the gates here, because if these gates are raised, the water will go east, and if these gates are lower, the water will go south. All that the gates here offer me is a little bit more control, which might ultimately be a little unnecessary. So I'm going to build the bare minimum on first pass, which is what I have laid out right now. And with that said, this section is like super not necessary. It's just to keep the ruins dry, which is like not a big deal. All right, now that we have flowing water and it's nighttime, nighttime is a good time to raise the water level because you aren't using the running power, the power wheel. So now that it's nighttime, I'll raise the average water level of our reservoir up to 90. The next unlock I'm probably going to save up for is the single high platform, because it allows you to build what essentially is a levee, but it doesn't actually it can be flooded. It doesn't disperse water or anything like that. The 3-tile floodgate I plan directly below the source will divert bad water. If I still don't really understand your question, but this here is to fill the drought water. If that answers it, if I understand correctly, these floodgates isn't for bad water. It's for drought resistance. It's to fill this tub. And then, in order to deal with the drought water, well, let's actually analyze. Let's use the Z level. So let's say I did invest in triple high floodgates here. In order for that to work, I wouldn't even necessarily need to clear these blockages because these triple highs are high enough. But that would send the water over here. And then at this level, it would need to be blocked here and here. So I don't know if there's, the thing is, I don't think that there's time for me to do it this way, but I could divert bad water away from the core of my base by clearing this block and building these floodgates and these floodgates. That would be a viable alternative to this. It just requires more time and investment, which I'm not sure I have, because the next event I'm going to be faced with might be a bad water flood, and I don't have time to complete these projects before it would kill me. Why do I need to block there at this height? Because I don't have a 2-high floodgate. I only have a 3-high floodgate. I don't have the blueprints for 2-high. So it's 3-high or 1-high, and 1-high isn't enough. 1-high, well, alright, 1-high would be enough, but it would flood over the top, so I'd be splitting the water for downstream and for filling. 2-high pushes it eastward, and 3-high pushes it eastward. 1-high pushes it south and east, and I don't want south and east. I want only east. So I'm doing a 3-high for that reason. Plus, it will serve a different purpose later on, which is to retain water for irrigation. I'll keep those spots for now. I'm not quite done with the last project. Alright, we have one unemployed. Put him as an inventor. A few of the pine trees are coming back, but I'm going to leave them to just like naturally slow regrow. What was this? Chestnuts? No, maples. Okay, so we're planting maples here. And then if we're planting maples and chestnuts, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to allow tree cutting of any of the planted chestnuts and maples. It's going to be a little annoying to have to micromanage it as the pines get culled or cut. But, you know, it's a work in progress over time. Check up on the oak growth. We're almost at 40%. So what are my builders trying to figure out what they're actively building right now? It's not obvious to me what they're like at the moment working on. I think they're still building the levees up top. Yeah, okay. And the diverter is almost ready. The floodgates are going to be a little bit more important than the diverter, so I'm going to raise their priority against the diverter. And then the bottom levees are also... Oh, the bottom two levees are also really important. And what I'd like to do before whatever event happens next is fill this tub full of water. Full of potable water. Thank you for tuning in to Timberborn version 1.0, which originally streamed live on Twitch. If you have any questions for me, let me know in the comments below. I am not, however, looking for feedback or backseating. If you'd like to catch a live stream of mine, Rhodamont.com has my stream schedule and countdown timer to upcoming streams. If you'd like to join my online gaming community on Discord, Rhodamont.com has a link to it, as does the description of this video. Thank you so very much for watching. Special thank you to my Twitch subscribers, Patreon patrons, and viewers like you that support the channel and made it all the way to the credits. Thank you so very much. I hope to catch you next episode or an upcoming stream. Farewell, my fellow Beavers.